YouTubers, and welcome back to Tony the Technician's channel. And today I have something kind of special, or a different type of video. So I've been watching a lot of the Mechanic Man 92's videos, and he watches mine as well. We try and help each other out, or stuff like that. He's a really cool guy. He just got done with I think it was auto body and repair technology or collision specialist type work, working on body panels and stuff like that. They do a lot of different work from what a normal automotive technician would do. It's kind of the other half of the automotive field. So I got with him and we thought of this idea for some video content. Basically, I'm gonna do a, not top 10, but 10 tools or 10 things that an automotive technician would use, and he's going to do a video on 10 tools that a collision specialist would use. And my 10 items are something that a collision specialist wouldn't really use, or if they did use, didn't use it as often as an automotive technician. I'm not saying that the collision people wouldn't use these tools, I'm just saying it's not as common as to how often I would use them. So, what else do I want to get into? Also, I came up with 10 things, but be aware that there's multiple things in each category. Like one of the things is suspension. I will be going over suspension tools. Not all of them, because there are a lot. And I'll be naming some of the multiple things, but only displaying a few. You guys will get the gist. Basically, because let's say like a ball joint remover, I'm going to show you one, like the pickle fork. I'm not going to show you all types, but I will tell you, of the different types. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and make sure to check out the Mechanic Man 92's channel and check out his video of the 10 tools he uses that I wouldn't find myself using on a regular basis or at all. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I think it'll be pretty good. So once again, if you guys do enjoy this video, please hit that thumbs up. Leave any comments below. Now remember, this isn't everything that a technician would use that a collision specialist wouldn't. It's just a few things. The list could go on forever. But I just stuck to some 10 things that I can actually show you, because there's a lot of stuff out there that I can't show you. But as always, like, comment, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're almost to 1,000, both mine and Mechanic Man 92's. I think he might have actually already hit it, so I want to give him a big congratulations, and I hope his channel continues to go far. And he's got a better camera now, so his quality is much better than before. I finally figured mine out. So let's check out this video and see what you guys think. Thank you guys. Okay guys, so I'm going to start off with suspension parts. The first part being this tie rod and ball joint separator. Now remember, there are multiple different tools you can use to remove ball joints. There are many different styles. I will try and show you some. Some of the tools that I have here, not this set, but some of the tools that I have here that I'll show you are just for home use, because they're better for a do-it-yourselfer. They're cheaper, stuff that I wouldn't use on a daily basis to get a job done. There are faster ways to get the job done with more expensive but better quality tools. This one I would actually use at work. This is KD, or gear wrench, part number 43990. It's an indexing tie rod and ball joint separator. You have your handle here, which is nice and rubberized, and you just use your hammer on this one. Then you have an attachment for your pneumatic air hammer, which is really nice because that really speeds up the process of removing ball joints and stuff. Then you have two different size pickle forks, and these are nice because sometimes when you're working on suspension, you have a hard time getting to the ball joints and stuff with a solid shaft pickle fork. So what's nice is it has a button here you can press in and actually angle your pickle fork for tighter spots and weird angles. And it does have a lifetime warranty, so that's really nice. Can't remember what this set ran me, but it's a really nice set. You definitely want to invest in a good set for suspension stuff. Next up, I have a bearing and race driver set. This is a cheaper set, but it's just fine for home, and basically any bearing and race driver set that you're going to get, these discs are all going to be made out of aluminum. This one, you can see it has 59 millimeter, and then it also tells you in inches, 2 and 325 thousandths of an inch. So basically all these sets are going to be made of the same material, and it just helps you install bearings and seals and stuff like that. It's better than using a socket. A socket can still be used, but it's definitely better than just hitting it in with a hammer. I see a lot of people do that, and then you take the chance of breaking the seal or bearing, or not getting it seated right. So you want to invest in a nice little bearing and race driver set. Next up, the last thing I have for suspension is a nice large set of wrenches. This is a Tecton set. They're SAE. It goes from 3/8 all the way up to 1 1/4. I don't have the metric set because Tecton actually discontinued these because they're remaking them, because this is their older set and their chrome job isn't quite as nice, and you find nicks and dings in these actually. This still works really great for home, but the thing I like about these for suspension is you have the angle on them, which can really help get to awkward situations when working with suspension parts. I completely understand why Tecton discontinued this set and the metric set, because their chrome jobs are much better now and their tolerances on fasteners are much tighter, so they're basically remaking them, and that's because they want people to know that they are providing good quality tools for a great price now, and they don't want their old products to determine whether you buy their products or not. But for suspension, I definitely suggest a nice angled wrench set, and yeah. So I'm not saying that collision specialists wouldn't use these tools. I'm just saying it's not quite as often, because most of the time it's body panels, but collision specialists do focus on more than just body panels. It's like framework and stuff like that, which they might find themselves having to remove suspension parts and stuff like that. So they might use them, just really not as often. So we're gonna move into the brake tools next. Okay guys, so next up on the list is or the topic is brakes. So when working on brakes like disc brakes, you're gonna need to compress the piston after you're done servicing the brakes or during. And there's multiple different ways. A lot of people, like me at home, I just use a C-clamp. I put an old brake pad in here and compress it with an old brake pad and a C-clamp. You can also get like the Lang ratcheting piston compressor, which is the one that I'm actually going to be getting for work. Then you also have the specialty ones that come with little round discs that actually have little, basically keyways and stuff like that on it for specialty brakes, where the piston actually has to be rotated back in. So there's a few different styles. I'll try and show you some of those later in a magazine. Next up is a brake bleeder. This is just a simple, cheap, for home use brake bleeder. Some people use these in the professional environment, obviously a better quality one, but there's a much better way to do it. Like they have a Mighty Vac system that actually can pull brake fluid and pump new brake fluid in. Those obviously run around $150 or more. This set runs around $20 to $30, but it's good for home use. It definitely speeds up the job, and you can do it by yourself. Sometimes if you don't have one of these, it might be a pain to do by yourself and you might need somebody's help. But it's basically got yourself some attachments, your hoses of different lengths and sizes for different brake bleeders. Then you have where you're actually going to be sucking the old brake fluid through, and you're waiting for all the bubbles to disappear from your brake line and wait for clean fluid to start pumping through this. So you basically just hook it up to this hand pump and you keep pumping it until all the bubbles are out of the system. And it's got different attachments for the bottle and stuff like that. So this is good for home use. I wouldn't trust using this on a daily basis, especially if you're just beginning and you're doing a lot of brakes. So I would definitely look into like a Mighty Vac system. Next up is a set that's basically made for drum brakes. This is a Matco set, and this is a set that the school provided to us. You have your gauges to determine whether brake pads are good, getting worn and might need change soon, and this is definitely recommended you get new brake pads. So that's that, and then these are just for removing parts inside of a drum brake. Like these is used for removing springs, a little bit easier in installing springs. Same thing as this is used for springs, and then it's got the same end as this tool right at the end of the pliers. And then you have your different angles and sizes in order to adjust the shoes. This is a really good set. I'm not sure what it runs. You can get it in multiple different brands. They all basically come with the same thing. Sometimes you'll get the ones with Allen sockets and stuff with them. It's a really good thing to have because vehicles still use drum brakes on like the lower quality models of vehicles. You'll find drum brakes on the rears. So this is definitely something you might find yourself using as an automotive tech that a collision specialist wouldn't use. So let's move into the next topic. What's up next in the topic of tools that an automotive tech might use that a collision specialist wouldn't is an infrared temperature gun. Now this can come in handy for multiple different things. Even home use. It doesn't have to be vehicles, but in the automotive field, this can really help in a lot of different situations. Whether you have a customer coming in complaining about coolant issues or overheating of like the coolant system, brakes, oil, multiple different things. Basically, you can run this temperature gun over like heater core hoses, radiator hoses, thermostats, basically anything to check and see if coolant is passing through that section or not. You can tell if there's a clog in the radiator, if there's a clog in the hose, and stuff like that. And then if like one of your brakes is grabbing when it's not supposed to, obviously it's going to have a higher heat than any of the other brakes on the vehicle. So you would check what the temperature is of your other brakes, and then say you come across one that's like 180 degrees, then you go to another one and it's like 400 degrees. Obviously that one's dragging or catching, and there you found your issue. So it can be used for multiple different things like that. It can also be used for home use or HVAC and stuff like that. So basically this one, you can get these in the Matco brand and all of that, but they run like $150. You might be able to hook up like a temperature probe to them, but this one doesn't have this. This is like a $20 infrared temperature gun, and it is actually really accurate. It doesn't have that feature, but it still works really great. So you turn it on, and you have the option of using a laser lit back screen, and if you see this EMS at the bottom and the number, it actually provides you with a sheet that tells you what the numbers mean. Like 96 could be more accurate for measuring body temperature, whereas 98 is more accurate for reading through rubber or glass or things like that, reading liquids. You have multiple different settings, which I think is really nice. And when using one of these, you definitely want to be as close to what you're measuring as possible. If you're checking a radiator hose, you don't want to be back like 8 feet. You want to be as close to that radiator hose as possible. And you hold it, let it adjust, and when it's about steadied out, then you can stop it, like my hand. So as you can see. And once you let go, it locks it. And then it has a time delay and it will automatically shut off. There are multiple different settings, but for each one of these tools, I will go into more depth in individual videos. I'm not trying to make this video last for 3 hours. So that's it for the infrared temperature gun. If you guys want to know more, make sure to stick around for my future videos. Next up, we have a compression tester. Okay guys, so like I stated, what we have up now is a pressure tester. This is specifically for cylinder pressure. This is the only one I can show you. There are multiple different kinds, special ones made for oil pressures, coolant pressure testers. I mean, there are a lot of different types of pressure testers out there. This is just checking like combustion pressure and stuff like that. This is a very cheap set, but I just use this at home. This isn't something I would use on a daily basis. And a lot of the things you can actually check with scanners nowadays. So most of the time a tech will use a scanner over having to use individual compression or pressure testers because it saves them time and it allows them to diagnose the situation faster. But in some situations you will find that you actually need to use the pressure tester. Also, scanners can run thousands of dollars and some people just can't afford that. So first up, you have your gauge, which it has a button here to relieve pressure after checking the combustion pressure. Basically, you would take this hose, you hook it up, lock it in, and then you would remove your spark plug of the cylinder that you're testing, find the fitting that fits your spark plug hole, plug it in, you screw this in, and then you would crank your car over, make sure you remove the fuel pump relay or disconnect the fuel, and crank your car over 4 or 5 times, and then each crank, it will bring this needle up and it will tell you the pressure inside of that cylinder. You'll have to check with the manufacturer's information in order to actually figure out what it's supposed to be at, and you can compare. And that just helps you determine if there's a leak in the cylinder, and then after that, if there is, you would go into a combustion leak down test and actually help determine where that leak is coming from, whether it's the valves, a blown head gasket, bad piston rings, you know, all multiple different things. But this is a great tool to have. This is good for home use. The reason I wouldn't use this in the work environment is because I'm sure this gauge is not as accurate as a more expensive compression tester. But basically all pressure testers work the exact same way, just the readings will be different for oil pressure, coolant pressure. Some of them have different adapters because obviously to check coolant, you're not going to use adapters like this. You're going to have caps that go on top of the radiator and stuff like that. But that's it for pressure testers. Let's move on to oil change tools. Okay guys, so what we have up now are basically oil service tools. Different things that you'll use for oil changes. Now, obviously, you're not going to run into a collision specialist that's going to be changing much oil. So that's why I chose this topic. But these are just some of the basic tools that you'll need for changing oil. Obviously, you'll need a ratchet and socket in order to remove the drain plug and stuff like that. But most oil changes are basically the same. I mean, some vehicles it might be a little bit more difficult. You might have to remove panels and stuff like that in order to service the vehicle. But actually changing the oil on a vehicle is basically the same process on everything. It's different in resetting the oil change service light and stuff like that. But in order to remove filters and change oil, it's all the same process basically. Here I'm just showing you different tools that you might need in order to actually change the oil. Like here, this is used for removing an oil filter. And this is for really tough oil filters that won't come off. This really digs into the oil filter and you're able to loosen it. You never use any of these to actually tighten an oil filter, only to remove them, because when installing an oil filter, it's only hand tight. Then next up, you have your more common, basically like an oil filter wrench, and it tightens down on the oil filter and you're able to loosen it that way. And then you have this one. Sometimes you can't get in there with this big handle or like this. The nice thing about this one is it does rotate, so you're able to do that, but you might not be able to get as much leverage. Then this one is actually, for getting into a little bit tighter spaces, you can use an extension on here and use your ratchet, and it opens up using some gears inside, and then you tighten it down on the oil filter, and you just keep going, and it'll remove the oil filter. So it's pretty nice. It opens up for some pretty big filters. So it's also got like knurling on the ends to really grip the filter. And then on a lot of more modern vehicles, they are switching back to the oil filter cartridges, which basically sit down in the engine, and they're basically like this little oil filter or like a air filter looking cartridge, and it is usually held in with like a plastic cap with a nut on top, but most of them are in pretty tight spots. So you get this OEM Tools 7-piece oil filter set. It's for multiple different vehicles. Like this one would be used for my 2012 Malibu. It's a 32, and the reason that you would use these is because, like mine, it's kind of hard to get to with a normal size socket, because these are much shallower and you can get on top of the cap that actually holds the oil filter in. And this set is actually reasonably priced. I think it's like $20 or $30. And you'll find yourself using these quite a bit more often now than you would have back in the day. So this is good for oil changes as well. And then like Toyota and some of the other brands, they actually have specific oil filter sockets that you would need in order to remove it. I don't have those, but if you work at Toyota, you definitely know what I'm talking about. So next up, we're gonna get into half-inch drive stuff and spark plug sockets. Okay guys, so next up, what I'm gonna cover is something that a collision specialist wouldn't really use. A majority of the time they're gonna be using 1/4-inch drive stuff, and once in a while 3/8, but it's pretty rare for them to use half-inch drive tools, just because most of their body panels and stuff like that are held in with pretty small fasteners, such as like a 10mm and stuff like that. So if you want to see more on my half-inch drive tools like this Gear Wrench 120 XP, go ahead and check out my Tool Talk episodes, where I cover a lot more into detail about each one of these specific tools. The reason they don't use half-inch drive tools is because most of the time the sockets are pretty large, and it's pretty rare for them to come across needing a socket this size to remove a fastener that they're working with. And then I'm not going to go too much into that because you guys know what a ratchet and sockets are. But the next thing are spark plug sockets. Obviously, collision specialists don't really find themselves changing spark plugs for people. This is a DeWalt set, and it comes with 5/8, which is your most common spark plug size. Then you got 3/4 and 13/16. Like I said, this is your most common size, and all three of these are the rubber boot style. There's a rubber grommet installed in these in order to prevent the spark plug from falling out when removing or installing them. They also have this feature on the back where you can put another socket or a wrench. 3/4 is a really awkward size. I didn't even know I had that one because I've never used it. And then I had this Matco 6-piece set. The part number is SPK6, and you can get this in different brands as well. And like Gear Wrench, it's basically the same thing, but you get like a 3-piece set instead of a 6-piece set. What's nice about these is they all have built-in extensions with a wobble feature, and that is really handy, especially with a lot of these newer vehicles where it's not as simple as it used to be to change a spark plug, where now you actually have to remove panels and your spark plugs can be at really weird angles and stuff like that. But this set comes with your 9/16, your 5/8 and your 13/16. Obviously your 5/8 being your most common. Excuse me. But with these, instead of having a rubber grommet, they are magnetic. And it's basically just got a built-in magnet inside of the socket, and it holds onto the socket very well. If you want to see more about this, once again, go ahead and check out my Tool Talk episodes where I go more in depth about these. Now, you might notice, like, these are the same sizes. They're both 9/16, but the magnet depth is different in the socket. So that's why you have different lengths and sizes in here. So you have a pretty good set of spark plug sockets right here. But let's move on. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be covering that an automotive tech would use that a collision specialist wouldn't are some types of pullers. This is just a few different ones that I have, and trust me, there's a lot more out there. I can't show you everything, we'd be here for days. This is already getting longer than I wanted it to be. So this is like a dampener puller or harmonic balancer puller, and what's nice about this is you can actually get different claws for it. These are removable, and what's nice about that is you can actually flip the claw around for getting inside for different situations, but most of the time you're gonna have it like this, but you can get different lengths and sizes for the claws. And basically, I'm sure you guys know how a puller works. This clamps around the puller, and then you put your socket on here, and you keep threading the shaft through until it forces that dampener off. So that's just one set. The next set that I have up is a pulley puller and installer set. Basically, like let's say you're removing a pulley off like an alternator, you would put this around the pulley, slide it in here to lock it in, and then you use your different adapters in order to pull the pulley off. Same as installing them. This is a cheaper set, ran around $20. It's good for home use. But after that, I have this Pittsburgh bolt type wheel puller. This can be used for multiple different things: steering wheels, harmonic balancers, just multiple different things. You get tons of different adapters, or I should say bolts, of different lengths, sizes, threads. The actual puller, like this, I use to remove my harmonic balancer on my 357. And basically, this piece, you have different types of adapters, smaller ones, and you have your main threaded shaft right here, where this clicks in here. After you've threaded it through, you put your correct size bolts into the harmonic balancer, and then this goes where the actual bolt would go on the harmonic balancer, and same thing as this, it would push it off. So not really much to go into, just stating that this is a tool that automotive tech that would use that a collision specialist wouldn't. But let's continue on. Another thing is a valve spring compressor. Collision specialists definitely won't find themselves really using these, and this is just one style. This style is used for removing valve springs with the heads off of the engine. They do make multiple different styles for removing valve springs while the heads are still mounted to the engine block. And this is just a cheaper one. You can also get ones with different sizes of adapters down here. This is just a solid mounted one. But basically, you would put this part on the valve, and then this part up on the valve spring retainer and everything. And you basically compress it, and it pushes it down so you can get the keepers out. So this is the one that I have here at home because I needed it for switching out the valve springs and stuff on my heads when I was rebuilding my engine. But now let's move on to electrical. Okay guys, last but not least, something that a automotive tech would use that a collision specialist wouldn't really use. Basically like a lot of electrical stuff. There's a lot more than just this, such as back probing kits, power probe kits, which basically allows you to hook up to, like, let's say a window motor or a window switch and apply power to it when it's disconnected, and basically test to see if the switch is bad or the motor's bad or what's going on. And then first up I have here is my test light. The reason I bought this one is because it has a digital readout from 3 volts, 24 volts. So it allows you to test a circuit pretty fast. Instead of having to pull out your DVOM and test it, you can see what type of voltage you're getting at that point in the circuit. So that's a nice tool to have for working on electrical stuff. This is my solar BA9 battery tester. If you want to see a video on it, go ahead and check out my video on my channel about how to use the solar BA9. This basically just tests whether a battery is good, cold cranking amps, such things such as that. It also reads like 6 different types of batteries, and you can also do a cranking test, test alternators, test it under load or without load, things like that. So this really comes in handy. Then you just have your basic DVOM. This is the one that I have here at home. I have a Fluke at work. This is really good for home use. It has a temperature probe and different adapters. And basically you just read ohms, volts, amps, temperature, everything like that. It really comes in handy when testing circuits. Next thing that comes up are OBD2 readers, or I should say OBD code readers and scanners and stuff like that. This is my Matco one that the school provided. It is a MD70, and it's basically an OBD2 reader, but you also get the feature of a little bit more. It's not a scanner, but it's not just a code reader. It's kind of right in between. You can scan live data. You can check engine codes, ABS codes, SRS, or airbag safety stuff. And I would definitely do a video on this more in depth on how to use it, or I shouldn't say how to use it, but the different things it can do. But this video is already really long. I was going to show you how to use a lot of these tools, but we'd be here forever. So I'm not sure how much this costs. It's probably around $300, but you can get just smaller OBD2 readers for like $50. And then your big scanners with like lab scopes and stuff like that, those can cost you a few $1,000s. So this is right in between. I'm definitely going to have to get myself a full scanner because, as you guys know, if you're into the automotive field, that a lot of the cars nowadays run off of a lot of computers, and a lot of the diagnoses and everything for vehicles, you need a good scanner for that. So that's it for electrical, and that's it. Alrighty guys, so that's basically it as far as my 10 tools, or I should say 10 categories that an automotive tech would use that a collision specialist wouldn't really find themselves using. Now the reason that we did this video and we got together and kind of talked about it is because it's basically for the newer people coming into the field or thinking about it. We really wanted to let people know what you're getting yourself into, the type of tools that you're going to be buying. If you decide that this isn't something that you want to get into because it can be really expensive for a do-it-yourselfer, you can find the same tools that professional technicians use, but maybe at a cheaper price if you're just doing at-home stuff. But if you're getting into the field, you will definitely start to see that things get more expensive and how much stuff you actually need. And this video also shows, this is what an automotive tech finds themselves using, and his video will show you what a collision specialist would find themselves using a majority of the time. So if you're stuck in between deciding what you want to do, maybe these videos will help you determine which one suits your needs better or which one you will enjoy more. So that's about it. I really want to give a congratulations out to the Mechanic Man 92 for he is beyond 1,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely amazing. I really hope his channel continues to grow. I find his videos very entertaining, and yeah, good job, and I hope you go far, bro. But other than that, that's it for my list, and I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up, leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions about maybe your top 10 tools that you find yourself using in this field.
And make sure you subscribe if you're not a subscriber. And now, make sure to go check out the Mechanic Man 92's video on this same topic, but in the collision repair field. Thank you, guys.